for me. Where would I be without you? Where would I be without you? Where would I be without you? There's no me without you. Where would I be without you? Where would I be without you? Where would I be without you? There's no me without you. Jesus, I can't deny it. Jesus,
Hello, viewers. Welcome to another edition of the Inside View. It's such, a joy to come your way once again. There's a lot, going on with our men that needs to be addressed. A lot of men suffer from depression, and because of shame, guilt, and for the fear of being judged, they tend to go quiet. And this condition is normally, I would say, undiagnosed. And we have a lot of men, being depressed. So now today, on a societal level, what are we going to do to reduce the stigma that is actually leading, our men into depression, that is affecting, marriages, many lives, and also destroying our children's lives? Because many a times when they leave home, it's the women who actually, I would say, just pick up the pieces by raising our children. So tonight, on the Inside View, I have, with me, a gentleman who is not, new to the Inside View. And, he's always there and always throwing his support behind this amazing platform. So tonight, I have with me Dr. Isaac Ampabeng Kyeremeh. Doctor, welcome to the Inside View.
Thank you very much, Nana. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you again. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah.
And let me say good evening to our viewers too.
Yeah. Before we go on, I would just want everybody to take a minute to invite their loved ones, invite families, invite, our husbands, our brothers, our sons, to tune into, into today's discussion. For all you know, somebody might be saved through this, through this discussion. So I would just urge each and everyone online to invite their friends, and also to invite as many people as you can. You can share the link, please share the link. Because tonight we are going to, empower ourselves, we are going to educate ourselves, and also, motivate somebody. If somebody is I'll say depression, I'll just know, we all know that by the time that we come to the end of this discussion, we might go home with something, important that would actually save our lives. So tonight, I'll say, just like I said, continue to share, continue to invite somebody to tune in. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll say thank you so much, to all the lovely viewers who've been actually throwing their support behind this, platform. I know many, and people are just waiting for the platform to be big before maybe they join actually in. But I would just urge, this platform is basically to educate, ourselves. I would say to empower ourselves, and also to unravel things, in our society that we don't actually talk about. So I would say this platform is not a sensational platform that maybe everybody maybe might, and want it to be. But this platform is basically to change the narrative, to change the narrative. So I would say just invite as many people as you can to be empowered. Thank you so much. So, Doctor, on a serious note, I would say, what is mental health or clinical depression? What is it?
All right. Right, Nana, before I go to the point, I think I must commend you for the good work that you're doing. To be very honest, I think you are taking talk shows to a different level. And I must confess that Inside View is quite unique in the sense that you actually discuss things that are never talked about. It's very, very unique. So I want to commend you that keep up the spirit and go on, keep on keeping on and doing the right things. And I believe
Thank you.
that one day, you'll be so happy that you did.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So back to your question. Now, before we discuss mental health specifically, I think it's very important that we understand the whole idea of health, because it's one of the areas that is a bit misconstrued. So when we talk about health, a lot of people think that, oh, I get up, I go to work, I go on with my normal activities, I'm not ill, I haven't got COVID-19, I don't have stomach ache, I don't have HIV AIDS, I don't have headache, and so I'm well. But no, that isn't it. According to the World Health Organization, it says health is a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. It's very important that we understand well-being, disease, and infirmity. Now, well-being, again, is not just the absence of a disease or infirmity, but it is a complex combination of a person's physical, mental, emotional, and social health factors. Now, unfortunately, there are people in community who cannot make friends. There are people in a community who cannot relate well with their own family members.
Mm-hmm.
There are people in community who cannot get even a single person to call a friend and who the person can ring and discuss issues. Such a person, even though has not got headache, stomachache, and so on and so forth, according to the definition of health, that person is unhealthy.
Ooh.
Now, let's look at the disease that has been underlined in the definition of health.
Mm-hmm.
A disease is any disorder that causes harmful deviation from the normal structural and functional state of the organism and is generally associated with symptoms that is indicative of the abnormal state of the individual.
Okay.
So, for instance, if somebody has, let's say, COVID-19, the person will start experiencing headache, fevers, fatigue, will start coughing, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the signs that will indicate that the person is unwell, and so the person has a disease. But this must be different, must be separated from physical injury, like having a cut, like, stumbling upon something and falling and breaking parts of your body. Again, it's very important we understand what an infirmity is. So when we talk about infirmity, it is the state of feeling feeble, weak, or frail as a result of a situation or condition.
Okay.
And these situations or conditions can be the presence of an illness. So if you are unwell, you can feel weak, you can be feeble, and you can be frail. The condition may also be as a result of the individual being disabled.
Mhm.
And again, it can also be due to old age. As
Okay.
we humans, as we grow, or living organisms, as we grow, we will not continue to have the strength that we have all the time. There would come a time when you'll be weak, feeble, or frail. Right. So, with these at the back of our mind, let us now particularly look at mental health.
Okay.
Again, the World Health Organization sets a preamble for the definition of mental health.
Okay.
And it says that mental health is a state of well being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, capabilities, and can cope with the normal stresses in life, can work productively, and make meaningful contribution to society. So there are some individuals who, for some reason or the other, will not be able to work because the mental faculty is not functioning properly. There are individuals who are unable to cope with the normal stress that we experience day in, day out. Because as humans, as we move forward in life, there are always problems. There are always difficulties which cause a lot of stress on us. But we should be able to cope with the stress and overcome it so that we move forward. But unfortunately, there are some individuals who, for one reason or the other, are not able to cope with such stresses in life and they break down. So, looking at all these, then we can say that the individual has a mental health issue. Then it's also very important that probably we look at some of the different kinds of mental illnesses. And then from there, we can narrow it down and we will understand the whole idea better.
Okay.
So mental illnesses can be put into different categories, which we call disorders. So an individual can suffer anxiety disorder. And such individuals respond to certain objects or situations with extreme fear and dread that culminates into panic, excessive sweating, and rapid heartbeat. They can't cope, and their reaction is disproportionate to the situation on hand. So, what an individual, a normal individual, will take for granted, they will react extremely to that situation. Such individual may be termed to be suffering from anxiety disorder.
Mhm.
Another individual may be suffering from psychotic disorder. And this is where the individual has a distorted awareness of events and thinking capacities, leading to hallucinations and delusions. Hallucinations is when, such individuals begin to see unreal things. They begin to tell you, look, 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 there is a man chasing me. There is somebody following me all the time. I can see butterflies on the walls. Can you not see? I can hear this sound. But you, in the same environment, you cannot hear. That is another kind of disorder. Or the person may be deluded. People with delusional beliefs have got such fixed false belief that even there are evidence to suggest that such beliefs do not exist. But the person still gets hooked onto it and not letting it go. He will tell you, I am God. And there is nothing that you can use to debunk the fact that he or she is God. He can tell you, I'm Jesus Christ who came to die for your sins. And they get hooked onto this. I mean, those individuals say big, big, big things, which we call grandiose ideations. Apart from that, we can have people suffering from eating disorder, and such people have strong belief about what they eat and their weight. So some people can decide not to eat at all, and they suffer from what we call what is it? It's when I remember, I'll tell you. I think it's nervosa.
Is it anorexia?
Anorexia nervosa. So such individuals will not want to eat at all because they think that if they eat, they're going to appear so big, and because of that, they don't want to eat. There are also people who suffer from personality disorder. Others suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and more importantly, and particularly to our discussion today, mood disorders. So for those who suffer from mood disorders, their disorder is also termed affective disorder, and they have persistent feelings of sadness or periods of overly happy. So they swing from one mood onto another. So they are either very sad or very happy, and the other way around. So they fluctuate from one mood to another mood. So in a nutshell, people undergoing all these conditions fall under mental health.
That's very, very, I mean, this is so, so interesting. I mean, I never knew anorexia and, you know, all that, you know, better that you've just mentioned fall under, you know, mental health disorder. I never knew. So, I mean, there's such an eye-opener. You know, for the purposes of tonight's discussion, Doc, I would like you to specifically look at post-paternal depression, because we are losing a lot of husbands, a lot of our men, you know, due to this condition. And I don't know where, you know, we got to this condition that, you know, a man should always be brave, you know, a man should not talk about, you know, their feelings, their emotions. So, you know, most of the times they get bottled up. And I also understand that a lot of men struggle to bond with their children, you know, when their wives or partners give birth to them. So they wrestle with despair and aggression. So can you throw more light on that, please?
Yes, Nana, thank you. So post-paternal depression, which we also call postpartum paternal depression or peripartum depression in men, refer to or come under depression, under mood disorders.
Okay.
So I think it's very important that we understand some of these terminologies very well. First of all, what is depression? What condition of mood disorder is termed depression? I mean, to a layman, or simply put, let us say depression is a state of low mood that lasts for a very long time. It affects the individual's everyday life. And it's a very common mental health problem. I mean, human as we are beset with a lot of problems that sometimes depresses us. So all of us, in one time or the other, undergo depression. But what is important is your ability to get out of the depressive state. Unfortunately, some people are not able to get out of the episode of depression. And so it gets to a point where they need the assistance of a clinician or a specialist. And under that circumstance, we call it a clinical depression. One of such depression is the postpartum depression. Postpartum, as the word suggests, is after birth. So anything that is related to giving of birth is postpartum. We also call it peripartum, meaning that around the time of birth, peri means around something. So peripartum refers to around the time a baby is born. Now, in most cases, women are believed to suffer postpartum depression or peripartum depression, the state in which the woman undergoes a very low mood, very sad episode after giving birth. But in recent times, studies suggest that men also undergo postpartum depression.
Mhm.
And this is as a result of a lot of things. You rightly talked about this culture of be a man, this culture of not a man enough, and so on and so forth. But before we get to that, I just want all of us to understand that men are equally human, just like women. So whatever the woman goes through, a man can also go through. The only difference is that sometimes men pretend to be so hard and possess special quality of being able to handle things in a special way. And unfortunately, Nana, that is what breaks us down sometimes. Because women tend not to show up, not to be so expressive like most women would do.
Yeah.
So we try to harbor the whole thing within us, which is very, very detrimental to our health. And it also falls under mental health.
We have lots of parents, actually putting pressure on their children, like especially right up to university age. The next thing is for you to actually get married and, raise your own family. Now you have people, during their dating or courting period, very, very close. Now, as soon as they begin to, have a family, the dynamics actually changes. So now my question is, why and how does the transition challenge the mental health of first-time fathers? I mean, what triggers the PPD? Yeah, I mean the postpaternal and postpartum depression. What triggers it? And why that transition into fatherhood challenges a lot of first-time fathers?
Yeah, Nana, you are right. It is true that sometimes societal pressure leads to some of these observations. Now, in order for us to understand your question very well or to get it very clear, it's very important for us to just take note of the triggers, the trigger factors of postpartum paternal depression, which we call PPD.
Yeah.
One of the factors is unintended pregnancy.
Okay.
So as humans, as we get into our adolescence, we tend to socialize. We tend to familiarize ourselves with the opposite sex, and we establish friendship. That goes on and goes on and leads to something else. So there is sexual misconducts, and these individuals, because they are unprepared for the future, as soon as pregnancy sets in, it creates a lot of problems, a lot of issues. So they begin to think how he or she is going to handle the situation. How am I going to handle a pregnant woman? How am I going to inform my parents? And so on and so forth. Even among the elderly, among grown-ups, sometimes if you are not ready for a particular pregnancy because of probably social pressures, because of pressure from work, because of financial issues, you are not ready to establish a family, and all of a sudden there is pregnancy. You begin to think a lot, and that actually can lead to postpartum depression in men. Apart from that, there is also interruption in love affair, even among married couple, among people who have come together through the bond of marriage. They want to enjoy themselves. They want to go to cinemas together. They want to go to pubs. They want to go to clubs, and so on and so forth. Then all of a sudden, a baby comes in between. The man is not prepared. So he's thinking about how he's going to handle. Is he going to lose those pleasures just because of the baby, the arrival of the baby? Is he prepared for that? So the mere fact that this man is going to lose those social, pleasures is detrimental to his health. And unfortunately, some people are not able to handle that properly, and that breaks them down. So they suffer postnatal peripartum depression.
Okay.
Apart from that, let me mention this, which of course is very, very concerning, and it regards women. You know that, Nana, as women, when you give birth, much more attention is focused on the baby than your partner. And that is natural. It's a natural tendency. So all the care and attention that women used to give to their partner at the onset of birth, this attention is not only divided, but much of it is focused on the baby. So,
but then don't you think, I'm sorry to interject, but then don't you think we have this beautiful, innocent, baby that, cannot take care, of, itself, cannot feed, itself, cannot do so much. So then obviously the attention cannot be focused on the man alone. Now the attention must certainly be divided, to cater for this beautiful soul, that has arrived. And also, so I think from the point of a woman, I would say sometimes, men around that time, most men, I wouldn't say all of them, some become a bit unreasonable. But then, based on explanation that you're giving now.
Yes, Nana, I'm coming to a point. Yeah. So what you're saying is right. That is a natural tendency, and that's how it should be. But the point I'm trying to make is that unfortunately, some men are unable to handle that. Some men are unable to come to terms with that fact, with that reality, that this is an innocent baby coming into this vast world, unable to fend for him or herself, and needs, both the mother and the father to look after him. But here is a man who thinks that, no, I have to enjoy my partner. I have to be with her all the time. So unfortunately, some men are not able to handle that fact very well, and that depresses them because they think that they are a stranger in their own island, in their own land. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay.
So
then another factor is the history of depression in a man's life. A man who has history of depression is more likely to suffer from postpartum depression than somebody who hasn't got history of depression. This is because people with depression are easily triggered by, environmental factors more than, let me say, normal people. Another fact which we need to mention is maternal depression. If for any reason the mother suffers from depression before birth or after birth, the problems that are associated with that can also influence the behavior of the man, and he can also have depression later on. There is also the issue of sleep deprivation. As a family woman, as soon as the baby comes, you will not be able to complete your sleep cycle like you usually have. And so does the man. the man is unable to sleep well because in the night the baby is crying. The baby is crying for food, and the woman have to get up, open door, and all these, sort of disturb the sleep of the man too. And probably early in the morning he has to get up and go to work, come back home so tired, tries to sleep during the night. The baby starts crying again and again, and unfortunately he's not able to sleep. That can also depress the man because that leads to a disruption in the circadian cycle or the circadian rhythm. A circadian rhythm is the natural internal processes that regulate our ability to go to bed and wake up, the pattern of our sleep and waking up. So as soon as this cycle is broken, a lot of people are not able to handle it properly, and that can depress them. Another issue which is very important and which I believe a lot might be shocking to our viewers might be hormonal changes. We all think that it is the woman who's suffer hormonal imbalance or changes in hormones during pregnancy and after birth. But no, recent studies have shown that there is also a hormonal change occurring in the man during the period of pregnancy and also continues even after birth for some time. Now, there is a study that shows that there is a decrease in testosterone levels in a man. We all know that the testosterone is a male hormone in charge of the masculinity. It's responsible for making the man who he is. But during pregnancy and also after birth, research has shown that sometimes the level of testosterone in the man can decrease. The man also sometimes has increased level of estrogen. We all know that the estrogen is a hormone in females. So estrogen in a man will tend to provide feminine tendency in the man as well. There is also levels of prolactin, there is vasopressin and cortisol, all of them shooting up slightly in a man's life. So some of these hormonal imbalance in the man, because that is not how it's supposed to be, can lead to depression in the man. Why should a man have reduced or decreased level of testosterone? It's very important because, like I indicated earlier on, that is what that's what confers masculinity in the man.
Yeah.
But when it goes down, studies have shown that it creates that kind of, sympathy.
Sound, please.
It creates some kind of sympathy. Sorry,
your sound,
Nana.
Please. Your sound, please. Your sound.
Hello, okay now.
Okay.
Hello. Hello, Nana. Hello.
We'll take a quick commercial break. Then when we come back. Oh.
Okay.
Sorry about the viewers. We'll take a quick commercial break. Then when we come back, hopefully you might have. The point is, viewers are saying they can hear you. So, if you can continue, that's fine.
Hello, can you hear me?
Isaac, that's fine. Yeah.
Hello, you hear me now?
They can hear you.
Nana, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You can.
I think viewers on the Facebook and also YouTube are saying they can hear you.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
But you can hear very well.
I can hear you now.
Right. And can they hear you when you speak?
Yes.
So why can't they hear me then? What should we do?
They can hear you.
They cannot hear me.
No, they can hear you now. They can hear you.
Oh, they can hear me now. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, they
Okay.
can hear you.
All right. That's good then. All right. So the point I was making was on the hormonal imbalances in the man. So I indicated that there is decrease in testosterone and then but increase in prolactin, cortisol, vasopressin, and increase in levels of estrogen. When that happens, because that is not the normal functioning of the hormones in the male, it can depress him. And I was trying to discuss why there is decrease in the level of testosterone. So testosterone, as we all know, confers masculinity in the man. So when it decreases, studies have shown that it makes the man rather sympathetic in responding to a crying baby. Okay, that's quite intriguing, isn't it? So
Too much.
yes, it's quite intriguing. So if you have too much of the testosterone, probably you will not be sympathetic because the masculine level is very high. You don't care. So nature has made it such that it has to reduce to a certain appreciable level so that you will come to the level of a woman and show sympathy when your baby is crying.
Yeah.
If it is food, you will help to feed the baby. If the baby is not sleeping well or is wet, you will be able to help change the nappies and so on and so forth. All right. Now, that also helps with bonding, how the man will be able to establish an attachment with the baby, the newborn. Additionally, when we have the reduced level of testosterone, that kind of also affects the man in the sense that he's a man and he needs to go about his normal duty with that masculine stature. But he's unable to do that. So, in as much as it's helping the man to relate very well to a newborn, it is also causing a problem in his life as a man and also depress him. So these are some of the trigger factors that we all should be aware so that we will be able to guard against postpartum or peripartum depression in males.
Having said this, do you think there should be more awareness about being a father to prepare them more and reduce such shock?
I mean, that is very, very true. There should be more awareness. And I mean, one of such is this platform, what we have now. It will interest you to know that a lot of our viewers might not have even considered the fact that this can affect the life of a man. We all think that, it's only man who can be depressed and so on. But no, it affects quite a number of men. And this should be incorporated in our counseling services. It should be, part of the period when, partners are going for counseling services, how they can manage themselves, they can manage family, and so on and so forth. So more awareness needs to be created. Thank God, now a lot of studies are coming about, a lot of studies are coming out regarding PP, and we hope that governments will take these studies on board and incorporate this into whatever policies that they have in place for postpartum depression in women as in men as well. Yes, more education, I mean, in schools, just as we teach depression and mental health, some of these things also have to be, incorporated in our studies.
Mhm. Good. And also, do you think on a societal, our society puts a lot of unnecessary expectations of men, I mean, that actually prevents them from opening up about their true feelings and also encourage them not to deal with them. Because, right, I would say that when you have, let's say two children or let's say three, unless you have two girls and a boy, we tend to raise boys differently from girls because, right from the start, we think boys should be tough. Boys, should be, very, very macho. I mean, why should you cry? Why should you vent, your emotions? It's only girls that do that. So I think right from the onset, boys are raised with that kind of, mentality that, every boy should be tough. I mean, there's no point for a boy to cry. So it's like we all grow up with that mentality. And so, do you think on a societal level that puts a lot of pressure on men, not to vent out their emotions and, which later on lead to this kind of disorder?
Exactly, Nana. I mean, you cannot in any better way. Societal pressures play a very significant role in this mental health issue. Yes, it is this culture of be a man. Right from the onset, men are bombarded by images and perception of masculinity, muscles, bravado, and slowly over time, they are made to believe that if you don't take if you don't take certain boxes, then you are not a man enough.
Yeah.
But that is quite ridiculous. We've forgotten about the fact that men are equally human. I mean, we are just human. So the issue of not be a man enough, and so men tend to be tough and they pretend as if all is well, is rather detrimental to the mental well-being of the man than helping him. I mean, if you are a man and you begin talking small, then society will say, oh, shut up. Are you a woman? You whine like a woman. Shut up. So the man cannot talk. The least thing you do, the little complaint that you make, he's not a man enough. See the way he's complaining like a woman. So the man is measured to a certain scale, which is different from that of a woman. I'm not saying that we should be put on, equal standing, but that idea that a man should not complain about, difficulties in life, about problems in life, but the man should stuff all these, that have culminated into the fact that even when the man is unable to continue harboring such difficulties, he still have to stop them.
Yeah.
So that is very detrimental. And that is one of the reasons why this condition has gone unnoticed or undiagnosed for a very long time. Let's look at these. We men ourselves, we often tend to stigmatize ourselves when we hear that, oh, that person has been in the mental health setting. Oh, look at him. He didn't behave like a man at all. Even we men, we ourselves, we didn't behave like a man at all. Man, small thing, then you complain. See, now you are in a mental health setting. So because of that, people are not happy to come out to tell if they are even in difficulty that requires the help of a clinician. Again, men feel embarrassed to admit that they are struggling. Okay, so if a man is struggling, he thinks that he should keep quiet and suffer, or keep quiet and with time to be able to get out of it. So he continued to behave like that until such a time that he is unable to control the whole episode, and he begin breaking down. And that's when we see that no, there is a big problem and we need help. If we had been able to help the person, or if the person had been able to admit it and come out as early as possible, the issue would not have deteriorated to that level. There is also the issue of men putting up with everything we want to put up with. So a very small difficulty, we try to harbor it, we try to put up with it and live with it. And as time goes on, it becomes bigger and bigger and it magnifies. It becomes so big that we can't handle it anymore. And we know that traditionally, men don't sort of display signs and symptoms of mental difficulty so much. They try to cover it up.
Cover it up, yeah.
And in so doing, they try to show it through being, drug addicts, start misusing substances, or they try to engage in alcoholism, or some of them engage in aggression. So all these are within, but because he's not able to express it to the outside world, to let people know that this is what I'm going through, he tends to drugs and begin, taking all kinds of hard drugs. So we will tend to believe that it is the drug that has caused the problem that he had, the mental health problem that he had, rather than focusing on the causative issue, which was, the depression episode that he was going through. Some also tend to alcoholism. So they will drink and drink and drink their hearts out, thinking that that would solve the problem, but that doesn't. And so they become alcoholics. Some also become very aggressive because they are not able to do that. They are not able to express it. And the only way they want to express it is to be aggressive, is to assault, whether their spouse, their children, fellow working colleagues, and so on and so forth. The little thing, they are so angry to the point that they have to be aggressive.
Doc, I'll let you continue.
Yeah.
But I just want us to take a quick break, then we'll continue. I mean, this is getting
Right.
so interesting. So just,
Thank
just 30 seconds break, and then we'll come back. Yeah. We're all being educated tonight, and I know that before this discussion ends, we'll be so empowered, to educate and also to be able to talk to our husbands, our partners, if we see any changes in them. So, doctor, before the break, you were talking about, how this PPD actually manifests itself. But as important as this, this condition is, why is PPD, or why does PPD largely goes undiagnosed or, lack recognition? Because on the national scale, until you said that, I think it's, now it's something now that maybe the government is looking into, to educate, our men. And I mean, why until now that, this condition is now gaining a lot of, recognition, but then until that, we've lost a lot of, partners, husbands, and we've left, raising up or rearing of, children, onto, I would say, to women to do it. And, many a times we tend to blame the men, not knowing what, they've been actually, or what maybe they are actually going through. We are quick to, I would say, stigmatize them. Oh, he's an, like irresponsible person. But, not knowing, the underlying condition that these men might be actually going through. So why does this PPD, largely goes undiagnosed?
Yeah, so it's just all the factors that we discuss, which, for a very long time, we have not looked at, or we have not overlooked. We have always overlooked. So, for instance, we talked about, men not being expressive, because the least thing the man gets, he is seen whining too much like a woman. And I don't want to be called a woman. I don't want to be called as if I'm behaving like a woman. So whatever it is, I need to stop in. Again, unfortunately, the research community have not done us so good in the area, because more often than not, issues like this are brought to light through the research that is conducted in the area, so that the information is, presented to governments all over the world, and they incorporate them into their policies. But it's one area where research is quite lacking. But good, thank God, these days, a lot of people are looking into this. So hopefully, as time goes on, we get, a broader knowledge of what goes into PPD. Again, I mentioned the fact that men tend to cover up, what they are really going through, because we ourselves, we tend to stigmatize one another. So for a man to come out to say that, oh, I have this problem, I need help, it's a big issue, because you either tell your fellow man or you tell a woman, and you want to believe in yourself. Sorry. Sorry, Nana. You want to believe in yourself that you are capable of handling the issue. But it is not every issue that, as individual, you can handle. There are some of them that you need external help. You need people who have been trained in that area to support you. You need medication to assist you. But here is a case. Because of stigmatization, the man wants to prove that he's a man enough. He doesn't want people standing by to say, look at him, he's behaving like a child. Look at him, he's behaving not man enough, and so on. So he tries to keep it. And in so doing, the man will, you made a very important submission in your question, which is, sometimes men neglect their families, and we think that they are just being careless, or they just neglecting them. No, these are some of the reasons why some men do that. They're already depressed. They're depressed. They themselves, they can't look after them. They can't cope with their own life. How do you expect them to cope or fend for the family? They cannot. Okay. So as time goes on, when we begin talking about some of these issues, then governments will incorporate them into their policies, and it will come to light, and there will be a time when it will not be shameful to talk about it. It will not be like you are not a man enough when you talk about it.
I think that statement that you are not a man enough, I think should be bad, because it's really affecting a lot of, no, it's true. It's true, because sometimes, we have a lot of men who, not because of that you're not a man enough, in quotes, maybe they would have actually spoken to their partners. Maybe, maybe, they could have spoken to doctors or nurses,
Yes,
earlier
exactly.
for help. But because
Yes.
of that, you are not a man enough statement, it actually prevents them from opening up.
Yes.
And by the time that we realize, harm has already been done. And
Yes.
now we have a lot of children growing up with no fathers. And sometimes it's like we are so quick to point fingers, but I would say, I think it's high time we got to the, the root cause or root causes of some of these, things, just to
Yes.
save lives. Because at the end of the day, we want our children to grow with their fathers. We want, our children to have this kind of fatherly figure in the
Yes.
house, because it's
Exactly.
really affecting children. And our children are screaming, we want our dads.
Yes,
So
Nana, you
I
are
know
right. You are
maybe
right.
after
That
tonight, maybe the
that
narrative will
statement,
change. It will
yes,
start
that
changing.
statement is a very ludicrous statement.
You
It's a
made
very,
mention,
very
how
ludicrous
this
statement.
PPD actually manifests.
Yeah.
By actually recognizing this, do you think, it is a disorder? I would say, can disorder help us to understand the maternal experience too, Doc? What do you think? By recognizing, how the PPD actually manifests in our
Yeah.
men. Do you think this will also help us to understand what women go through? Because we are quick to say, oh, because of postnatal, hormones, or I would say, like due to hormonal changes. It's always in favor of women. So do you think by understanding what men go through, that will give us a better understanding of what we women also go through?
Yes, Nana. So you were making a statement. Let me take you back a bit regarding not man enough issue. And
Yeah.
you were talking about the fact that it should be bad. Well, I don't know how it's going to be, but that will be a good opportunity for men to be able to express themselves if it is bad, if it's possible, because it's a very ludicrous statement. And it doesn't only affect men of today, but generations unborn. It, capitalizes on your senses, your ability to reason, your ability to associate, you know, and how you relate to the environment. Because you are always careful about what I'm doing. Am I the man, or am I acting as not a man enough? And these things, if you ask any man, will tell you that the worst thing that he wants to hear is that you are not a man enough. And that is why when two men begin to fight, the first thing they do is, if you think you are a man, come. And then you see them, yes, you see them opening their shirts and getting ready, to fight or flight. The issue is that you don't want to be challenged that you are not a man now, because you are. Even if you look like, as tiny as what, you still believe in yourself
Yes, you're
that
man
you are
enough.
a man. So you don't want to hear. So that statement is really killing men. It's very, very detrimental to our mental well-being.
Yeah.
Now, coming to the question about how PPD manifests in us, and will that help us to understand what women go through? It's very important. Nana, let us critically look at how it manifests, understand it, so that we will know what the man is going through. And in fact, that is what is being used by clinicians to diagnose whether a person has PPD or not. At least you need to have 5 symptoms that justifies or that is indicative that an individual has a PPD. The first one is that that individual should go through depressive mood of a day or nearly every day. So most of the day, we want to see that person undergoing episodes of depression, or every day that person we see in that person undergoing depression. That is, the person feels so sad, he's empty, he's hopeless, and so on and so forth. And these should be observable things that we see in the individual, or it should be something that is reported by a very close relative, that this is what I have seen in that individual. The second symptom that is very important is that there should be significantly diminished interest or pleasure in all or almost all activities most of the day. Such individuals, you will find out that things that they like doing best, they start doing it. And this occurs either every day or most times of the day. You will not see them doing it. They just fold themselves up and sit somewhere so quiet, not wanting to engage. That's point number 2. And this should be significantly observable, or it has to be reported by a close relative. The third manifestation is that there should be a significant weight loss, which is not intended. So the person is not dieting, but is experiencing weight loss or excessive weight gain as a result of excessive eating. Okay, some individuals, when they are depressed, they stop eating completely. Anorexic nervosa.
Yeah.
Some people too, what they do is they eat excessively. We know them. This is how much they can eat. But at a certain point in time, all the time they want to eat, all the time they want to find something to eat, even if they are not hungry. They want to munch all the time. That is, another manifestation of a person undergoing depression. Again, there is either insomnia or hypersomnia, either every day or nearly every day. What that means is that the person can't sleep during the night nor during the day, or the person sleeps and refuses to get out of bed. You will try and try and try and wake the person up, and he's not getting up. That is also a sign. It's an alerting sign that that person is undergoing depression. Again, you want to look at psychomotor agitation and or retardation. So you see the person doing things in a very quick and fast manner, which under normal circumstance, that is not how the individual operates. Or the person tend to be too slow, that under normal circumstance, you know that this is not how this person is. So if they are walking, you will see them walking so briskly, or they are walking so sluggishly as if there is nothing at stake. And you know that is not their normal way of life. That is an indication that they are going through some kind of depression.
Okay.
Again, there is diminished ability to think or concentrate. So they cannot think for themselves. They can't concentrate. They wake up. If you don't tell them to go to bathroom, they don't want to do it. They sit down unconcerned about what is going on in the environment. The baby is crying. They don't care, as if they have not heard at all. All these are symptoms to show that the individual is undergoing some form of depression. And there is also recurrence of thoughts of death or suicidal ideations. So the individual wants to kill himself without any specific plan. There is a difference between when a person plans to commit suicide because he owes, or because of, something happening to his life, and he wants to end it all together. So the person has planned that, oh, I'm going to hang myself. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That is not as a result of depression. But this person wants to die, but he doesn't know how he wants to die. And that thought keeps recurring. And you know that that is what he wants to do. All of a sudden, he's sitting down. One time, you see him putting, tying a ligature. He's trying to tie something around the neck. He wants to die. Next time, you see him crossing the road so roughly, or lying right in the middle of the road. He wants to die. He wants to be run over. So when you see some of these, it should alert you that no, this person is undergoing some form of
Depression.
a depression and needs, support. Now, according to clinicians, 5 of these need to be ticked before the person will be considered to be undergoing depression. And it is the same method that is used for postnatal paternal depression.
Okay.
Aside that, it is very important that such an individual shows a depressive mood. That's very, very important. Even if the person takes all this and the person is not showing any kind of depressive episode, they will not consider it as a depression. So it's very, very important. And that person should lose interest or pleasure in doing what he likes doing best. And that qualifies the person, or that indicates that the person is undergoing depressive episodes. So if it is after birth, then you want to believe that, oh, so it's a post-paternal depression that a person is undergoing through. Now, to narrow down, when a person undergoes, PPD, the entire family suffers, because we know that the man forms part of the breadwinning capacity of the family. The man, these days, you cannot say that the man is the breadwinner, because women are also part of it. So we say that they are co-breadwinners. So that's why I'm being careful here. So the man is a co-breadwinner of the family. So if the man is depressed, the sole responsibility rests on the woman. And in fact, studies suggest that children who are brought up in such an environment or in such a home tend to have, deficit in adaptive behaviors. They tend to have behavioral problems.
It's true, yeah.
There is so much hardship on the mother as well, because the mother had to take all the responsibilities. That can in itself depress the mother. So it's very important that as soon as we see some of these manifestations, we begin to offer any kind of support, any kind of assistance that we can offer the man, rather than thinking that this man is careless, this man doesn't care about the family, this man is not. Let us deep down into, or start thinking through some of these underlying conditions before we put up the blame game.
Yeah, okay. And also, do you think a financially stable man suffers less or not at all from PPD in comparison to those who aren't?
Right.
Because,
no, that's a very important point. We know that money does it all, but in fact, not all, not everything. Money cannot solve all problems. One of the causes of depression is financial instability or poverty. Let's put it, without mincing words, poverty can actually cause depression, because you don't have money to fend for your family. You don't have money to join groups. You don't have money to do anything. Even sometimes clothes you wear, you don't have it. There is pressure on you, people looking down upon you, and so on and so forth. That in itself can depress you. So not having enough money to cater for yourself and your family, and you beginning to have children can depress you.
Yeah.
But Nana, that is not to say that it is only poor people who suffer from depression. That causes depression. But individuals, irrespective of their financial stand, can also have depression, because we talked about causative agents, causative factors of depression. Some of them being hormonal imbalance, some of them, being sleep deprivation and disruption in circadian rhythm, and maternal deprivation, and so on and so there are other factors that also leads to paternal postpartum depression.
Depression.
So I wouldn't say that money in itself will stop you from getting depressed, but poverty predisposes individuals more to getting PPD than those who have very comfortable financial standing.
Okay. Viewers, I would want you to send your questions if you have any questions, anything that you want, Dr. Isaac Ampabeng to answer or to throw more light on. You are allowed to do it. And I think that's what he's here for, to educate us and also to answer any questions that really bothers you. So
And I believe now they can hear us better.
I came across, I think in trying to research, for this topic, I found out that men with low education, I mean, some men, I wouldn't say all men, tend, like in addition to financial instability, makes it so hard, for them to cope with depression. I mean, how far is that true? I mean, how does low level of education, makes a man depressed? When they have like a newborn baby. I mean, how does low level of education, come into play? Because like you realize that some of these men, they tend to, focus on this infant, like most of their conversations are more, I would say, infant focused, insults and, all kinds. So how does low level of education plus, financial instability, affects a man's mood, like in terms of PPD? I mean, how does it play into it?
Yes. So, Nana, a bit of
That's my own
everything
question,
is
because
good.
I was a bit shocked as to how low level of education can play, into depression. I mean, how is that possible? I don't
Yes,
understand. So maybe I'm I don't
exactly.
know.
That's why I say that, topics like this that you bring out is so important because it brings out very revelations, So yes, it's very, very important that we ask ourselves some of these questions, much into them. Yes, now see, a bit of everything is important, to our life. Education is very, very essential to our well-being.
Yeah.
Um, you know, education is needed in whatever thing that we do. It is sought to create the
Yeah.
warrior in life. You know,
Mm.
the fighter. It gives you the strength that you can move forward in life.
Mm.
So even with difficulties, with an educational background, you would know how to weave around it, who to consult, who to speak to, and get
Okay.
help. So education is sought to create the noble man, the man
Okay.
of character.
Mm.
It is also intended so that we will be able to face life equally. But that is not to say that people who have not been educated at all, haven't got that capability to face life. But we know this day and age, everything is going scientific. Everything is moving in a direction that tones, the line of education. Like what we're doing now. If your level of education is low, it's difficult for you to know that, oh, even something like this is going on. So let
Mm.
me, hook onto it and listen to what is going to, let me educate myself.
Mm.
Again, um, people with very low education, unfortunately, some of them lack the confidence to
Okay.
approach
Mm.
people and look for help. Okay. Even where to get help is a problem because they can neither read nor write. So, uh, most of the time we get our information from what we read, from what we see around, and so on and so forth. So, if the level of education is low, that in itself, can disturb you. So, even if you are undergoing some difficulty, you don't know what is happening to you. But if you have been in school and you have friends and they talk about it, or you hook onto media platforms and you know that, oh, these discussions are going on. Okay, so that's what it means. Next time when I see somebody, when I go undergo through that, I will be able to help myself. Okay. But what I wouldn't do is to put a cap on the level of education that can lead to depression. Unfortunately, I cannot determine that you have to be at the graduate level, at the master's level, at the PhD level, professorial, or at the basic level. The most important thing is that you should be at a level where you will be able to read and write. You'll be able to understand the things that go on within your community. You'll be able to know that, oh, I'm going to start a family. How do we raise a family? What sort of books should I read to understand so that I will have a thick skin to handle the situation when it arises? Or who is to consult when I have difficulties? Who should I go to? And so on and so forth. So individuals who have very little or no education, unfortunately, cannot meet some of these issues, and they tend to suffer the condition more than somebody who can read and understand. And I tell you, Nana, some of these things are coming into light all because of the level of education. If you
Education.
quite remember, I mentioned the fact that now research is toning, or research has been toned into looking at some of these issues now. So
These
very
issues.
soon it will come up, and government will begin to realize that there is the need for them to incorporate this into their policies. It's all about education. It's
It's
all
all
about
true.
research. So
Mm.
that's one of the reasons, or these are some of the reasons why people who have very low or no education
Education.
tend to suffer depression more than those who have it.
Do you think the dynamics of the relationship plays a factor? Like for example, strong, like yeah, if they have strong communication, if the couple have got strong communication, do you think that would change that kind of dynamics?
Yes, Nana. I mean, you couldn't have put it any better. Because if you look at the trigger factors, some of the things that I mentioned was that, the man sort of thinks that that kind of psychological needs that he gets from the partner is no more there.
Mm.
Okay. And to be very honest, one of the causes of depression is sexual deprivation.
Yeah.
In during the time of pregnancy, some women tend to have very little or no desire for sex, and that deprives the man of his sexual needs.
Yeah.
I mean, some women sometimes would want to have it even during that time, and that's when they get all the pleasures. But unfortunately, to some women, they don't, and that deprives the partner.
Okay.
Again, ability to understand that, no, I think now both of us need to give our attention to the little baby,
Maybe.
needs to go on. I mean, both partners need to have a discussion. So communication is very, very important under that scenario.
Mm.
So where there is a break in communication, the the man is lost.
Yeah.
One, he's deprived of so many things,
Mm-hmm.
and two, there is no explanation whatsoever to understand what is really going on. So he's at sea. So when there is a break in communication, it really casts a slur on the whole thing. And not only that, also when there is disharmony in marriage, it can also affect the depressive episode, or it can even influence it the more. For instance, the man is already going through a lot. The woman is also going through a lot. But there is mistrust. There are issues of concern. The woman is already accusing the man of having stayed out long. That kind of mistrust, infidelity is there. So he comes home and he's bombarded with a lot of questions, and there is arguments here and there. That actually affects the man, and that can lead to depressive episodes. Not only that, if in the whole process the man is not able to work as a man fully and to be able to stand on his feet financially, and at that time the woman is also not working, then of course the problem is going to be so huge on the man, which can worsen the situation or the plight of the man. So all these are factors that need to be taken into consideration at the time of birth.
Wow. I mean, it's so interesting. So interesting. If anybody has got a question for Dr. Isaac, I think you're more than welcome to send in your questions. I mean, so far we've got a lot of comments. I've got Lucinda Ajiman all the way from America, Hawaii. It says, knowing this as women can also empower us to encourage our men to be more open. I've got Nyamidoba Ama also saying, very well explained, Doc. We are really learning something today. I've got Kofi Etiahini, saying yes to what you've said so far. And there's a lot. And I have Samuel Kwabnani saying, just reiterating, what you just said, if you think you're a man, just adding to you. Doc, could you kindly tell us some of the treatment options or support for curing this type of depression? And before that, do you think it's so easy for men to admit that they are depressed? Before you answer this, do you think it's easy for men to admit that, they are, I would say, depressed? Do you think it's easy for a man to admit, especially when all the signs showing that maybe my husband or my partner or my boyfriend is depressed, but then they are always in denial? But you, the woman, you've seen all the signs. Do you think it's so easy for a man to admit that, hey, I think I need help, I'm depressed?
Nana, it is not. Simply put, it is not. And men will always be in denial of their depressive episodes. And to be honest, it's not just men. Mental health in general, unfortunately, many individuals do not accept the fact that they have mental illness.
Okay.
I have ever worked with people with mental health issues, and none of them from the beginning would admit to whatever diagnosis that is given to them. They will always argue, and they think that the diagnosis is wrong. It is when they remain in the mental health setting for a long time that they begin to realize that, oh, okay, so this is what I have. They are really acting out according to whatever diagnosis that is given to them. Yet they say, no, they are not ill. It's just like somebody who is super drunk. He will say, no, 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 me, I'm not drunk. Nobody admits. So,
Yeah,
yes,
it's true.
men, apart from the fact that apart from the, the stigmatization attached to it, apart from the fact that we want to be men,
Men, yeah.
um, find it very difficult to admit that they have depression.
Mm.
And not until we have this dialogue, not until we continue to talk about this issue and let people know that it's part of nature. They are real issues. They are illnesses, and it's not anybody's, making that you are unwell, but it's the condition. We must understand conditions. It's situational,
Mm.
and we must understand situations. People will continue to hide under the carpet and pretend as if they don't have it. Meanwhile, they have it. And that is what is leading to, single motherhood that we have. I mean, poor women being left alone to raise children all by themselves, raise families all by themselves.
Mm.
Okay. But all of us can help. The entire society can help. Let's see how we can support one another. For instance, employers can continue giving, um, paternal leave and paid paternal leave to men
Mm.
as well. Fortunately in the West, somewhere here in the UK and in the Western world, that is done a lot. But elsewhere, typically in Africa, you hardly come across paternal leave,
Yeah.
paternal paid leave, and so
Mm.
on. But all these are things that will alleviate some of the suffering, some of the problems that the man goes through. If he knows that, oh, I have to stay at home with my partner and look after the baby, and at the same time, I'll be giving something at the end of the month to support myself and my family,
Mm.
that in itself is a relief,
Mm.
you know. So you don't have to, so that even during the night, if he is unable to sleep, at least during the day, he can rest. But
Mm.
look at a situation where his sleep is deprived during the night, and early in the morning he has to wake up, go to work, work so hard, he comes home, he's tired, he's unable to get good sleep during the night because baby is crying, mom is trying to feed the baby, and there is noise around. Okay? So there are a whole lot of things going around this person. And what do you think will happen? He's eventually going to break down. So support from government, from employers will all help alleviate the problems that new fathers go through. So coming down to treatment options, yes, thank God there is treatment for this condition, and it's one of the reasons why we must admit when we undergo episodic depression. I mean, something that has no cure, then you want to hide it. But if fortunately there is a cure to it, why don't seek help? Why don't you go for the treatment? So some of the treatment include psychotherapy. So clinicians administer psychotherapy to individuals undergoing depression. So we have the cognitive behavioral therapy. We also have interpersonal behavioral therapy and so on and so forth. All these are helpful to individuals who suffer depression.
Mm.
Again, any treatment that is offered women during the postpartum stage can also help the men as well. So we also have the um, emotional support programs that is being organized for women. And it's very important that this time around, we don't leave the men at the background.
Yeah.
We have to include them. So when we are inviting them for such programs, why don't we say, come with your husband, come with your partner, so that both of them will learn. So
Yeah.
the focus should not only be on the man. So these programs are all very helpful. If all these fail, there is also medication. There is antidepressant drugs that can help, ameliorate some of these depression episodes that people go through. So there are a whole lot of help and assistance out there for people who undergo depression.
Oh, I mean, so soon we've come to the end of our discussion, and it's been so enlightening. It's so enlightening, and I've learned a lot today, and I hope you have as well. You viewers out there, I know you've learned a lot. I've got Abna Efri and Kroma Ampabeng saying very interesting and informative. Thanks so much, Dr. Ampabeng Kyeremeh. Yeah. So that's also from Abna. Um, I would say a very big thank you to Dr. Isaac Ampabeng Kyeremeh and also to our viewers online. And before we sign off, I'll urge our men to speak up, to talk about the way you feel, the way you think about a situation. I think as families, it's high time we took our communication very, very seriously, because you might be living with a husband who might be depressed without you not knowing. You might be living with a son, that is this, so so despair, so depressed, not knowing actually what to do. So I think we need to start talking to our male children. We need to start engaging in constructive communication with our children, especially the male children. Not making them feel they are not men enough, especially when they voice out their emotions. It's high time we took it very seriously, because the build-up leads to some of these things that we all witness later on in life. So I would say, just like I said, we want our husbands, we want our families to be the bond that God actually meant it to be. We need to start talking about some of these issues, and I'm glad the Inside View has offered to unravel some of these topics that it's a bit not comfortable to deal with, but this is what this platform is all about. So thank you, once again. And also, there's, like a lot of support system for our fathers, actually watching online. We've got, the Mind. If you're in UK, you're actually watching. We've got the Mind that open up, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and also from Monday to Friday. And their numbers, I mean, like when you go online, it's all there. But, for the purposes of this program, I'll leave their number here. It's 0300 123 3393. 0300 123 3393. And we've got the Pandas Dad. That is also like a private thing on Facebook. You can actually link up with them, where we've got fathers there that also share their emotions, and I believe you can learn a lot from there. So we've got I would say Pandas Dads, and we've got PND Daddies, and also they also run like a private chat on Twitter. And it's like I'll say, it's meant for dads who suffer with PPD, and also who need support. And also they're also available on Tuesdays from 8 till 9 p.m. So they have hashtag PND Daddies, PND. So it's hashtag PND Daddies. And we have the Samaritans, and for them, they are there, I would say 24/7, whether day or night, they are there. And we have Psalms for Dads, and they give information and comments that is also available online, also on their website. So I would say, don't carry the weight of fatherhood on your shoulder. I mean, especially if you know you're suffering. We don't want you to carry this weight on your shoulder alone. If you need help, speak up. If you need help, talk. And I know, there's help available. And tonight we've, educated us, ourselves a lot. Doctor has, given us a lot of information. And I know if you happen to chance on this, I would say episode on Facebook or YouTube, kindly watch it again and kindly pass it on to a friend to watch, just to educate ourselves. So for tonight, once again, thank you for tuning in, onto the Inside View. So thank you very much, Doctor, once again, and thank you very much, viewers. Until
thank you, Nana. Thank you for having me on the show.
We'll come your way same time, and knowledge, will be I'll say available again, to share and also to educate ourselves. I'll say once again. So thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you so much.